Hi everyone, my name is Alya Imania. I am currently working as a research associate at OB Research. I did my bachelor's degree in anthropology and sociology in Unimas. I am from Kuching and I've been active in several youth organizations across Kuching. That's part of what I do. I feel like one of the big challenges I faced growing up was having people put really high expectations on me to succeed and to perform well. Despite it sounding very good that you can go out there and achieve great things, it can also be pressuring when you do things and people expect you to be really good at it. That's one of what I feel as a challenge. I overcame it. Well, it wasn't easy. I had to do a lot of rewiring. I had to convince myself that whatever I was doing, it is okay, even if I don't do well. At least it's worth trying. So it took some time for me to understand that I was actually doing well wherever I am. I don't have to outshine, or I don't have to be crazy successful. As long as I'm happy and I'm content with what I'm doing, it's fine. It also took some therapy, but it's all good now. I would answer it's Taylor Swift because I'm a big fan of her. But if I were to look back at the many years and the people that I grew up with, I would say it's the women in my family. I think in some ways they empowered me because they taught me that being a woman doesn't mean that you're confined to your household, you're confined to being a baby making machine. You can go out there and work. A big chunk of my life is shaped by the women in my life who has paved way for me. I feel like the biggest barrier would be trying to convince people that we are just as capable as they are. And people, as in the older generation, to believe in the capacity and the capability that we have. I'm not saying that this is something that happens only to our generation. It also happens to their generation with the generations before them. It's a generational thing. And with different challenges that we do have, especially with the rise of AI, with the rise of social media, basically our lives are getting more transparent, and there's very less this stark difference between time and space as we did back then. That rises a lot more challenges, and hence why a lot of people would think, oh, we're just the generations with phones and we're so busy with our phones and all these social media thing that we don't focus on other things. But that's very wrong. We just, yeah, maybe we're really good with our phones, but there are ways to navigate and navigate through that, and the social is always changing. So I think we do have the capacity and the capability to work through the social because it's changing and we adapt to it. But most of the time with the generations before us, they don't see that. So yeah, that's the biggest challenge. I have a very academic answer to that. So I did sociology, and a big part of what we study in sociology was we learned to understand how social institutions came to shape the very choices we make in our lives later on. So, for example, if you are a woman and if you are a man, you have a different set of expectations being put on you. Whether as a woman, you're programmed to immediately become wives and become mothers, and then as a man, you're immediately being subjected to being good in the public domain, like working outside and being fathers or being bosses and CEOs. Things like socioeconomic factors and gender and technology really affects youth empowerment in a way that it's either limiting or it can leverage the empowerment that youths may feel. And it depends on how these people were raised. I am a big believer of the way and the environment that you were raised will eventually shape the person you are. If you happen to be a very privileged person being raised in a maybe not well off but in a decent family, then yes, you have a lot more opportunities. But if you are, you may not be well off, you're not as privileged, you may struggle. So it depends, it's on a case to case basis, with different people having different struggles. And what's most important here is how do government help youths with this. That's why we have programs that cater to youth, so they can fill up these gaps that are existing within the social institutions that this youth live in. So it's very important how government leverage all these tools like technology or expectations about our gender, and so they can use this chance to actually empower themselves. They should listen to us more. It is not enough for you to just fund these people. It is not enough for you to just, let me give you money, you run your project, but you never show up. It's important for you to show up in whatever that we're doing and give us the autonomy and the power to decide. That's very important. A lot of things, when you go, they would say, okay, we give you the funding. When they say we give you the power to decide what kind of programs you want to make, for example, and we would choose programs that are be beneficial for the youth. But we need you to show up. We need you to also not just give us the funding and give us the say per se, but also be there for us and actively listen. It's not just something that you come to our program and you say this. We need to say how it's being implemented into your policy. So before you can decide on, okay, we're gonna make policies that are going to be centered around youth, have to make sure, one, are youths being centered in your policy really? If being centered, how are they involved in this policy making process? Are they involved in the discussions, or are they just simply involved in decision making? In exactly who are the beneficiaries of this program? Is it directly to the youth? Is it only catering to a specific group of youth? Or is it benefiting the private entities, for example? Listen, communicate and listen. Easy. I feel like this is a recurring problem, and I've said it in my answers before as well. I think people don't listen to us as much as they claim they are listening. So you would have programs centered around youth, but how often do you come down and detect what are the gaps that exist within these programs? Barely any, because once the program is done, you would say, okay, this is how successful the program has been. For example, okay, we're going to make a program about education. Okay, they get this. This is the impact. This is we pass the objective. But the real problem is the gaps. How do we eventually reach to that particular objective? Are we making sure that everyone involved in the program um, feel the same thing? Like usually now we do like pre and post survey, right? How are we analyzing that survey? So it's important for us to listen. So it's not just buried survey, take it back and then analyze it, get it into graphs and report it. That's not enough. You need to be there and say, okay, I'm listening. Tell me what's your problem. And it's not just enough for you to listen to us young leaders, because young leaders always have their own agenda. Everyone you come across will always have their own agenda. Power is a thing. So you need to go down there to the community as for perhaps community leaders and someone convene, talk properly, and discuss. A lot of leaders, a lot of people who lead will always have agenda. So coming from someone who also have agenda and also is a leader, it's important for you to congregate not only with me, but with all the people under me and tell them, ask them what's their problem, listen to them, identify the gaps in the program. So yeah, that's what I feel like communities can do to have inclusive spaces. Okay. Okay, it's important for young people to be involved in decision making. The most obvious answer, because we are the future generation. 50, 60 years from now, you don't have the people currently in parliament telling us what to do. If you don't give us the power now, if you don't give us the autonomy now, if you don't guide us now, we might not know what to do. And that's something that they are also in fear of, because they feel like we don't have the capacity and capability. But capacity is built. That's why I say it's important for you to show up. It's not just for you to give money, but it's for you also for you to show how leaders should be and guide us properly. So yeah, youth should definitely be a part of decision making, because the policies are going to shape our future. Two things: communication and empathy. Empathy is not something that you are born with. It's something that you have to learn. So you need to be empathetic. You need to listen to your people and understand. You cannot be condescending towards them. If they have problems, you need to listen to them. And being empathetic, there comes being understanding and negotiating. So let's say you are being given this big project, but you don't feel like your team have the capacity to conduct it. So that's where you go through negotiations after being empathetic, per se. So I think those are the skills that every leader needs. You need to listen attentively. You cannot just lead. You need to listen. Okay. Social media, in terms of youth empowerment, I feel like has been very positive. You're giving these youths this unfiltered platform for them to voice out their opinions, tell them and speak up about what's wrong, and give them the space and the platform for them to show up leaders or as people who are capable of leading. It can be negative if it's unfiltered or unregulated. So that's where government regulations come in, especially with the rise of AI. And the AI usage is very prominent in social media. So yes, it can be negative if it's unregulated, not just towards youth, but also little kids and also towards senior citizens. I think it's been very positive because we're seeing you can just post on your Instagram, start an IG account, start a movement through that. I think it's giving them this very big space and platform to speak up without it being filtered by the government. But of course, there are times that it needs to be regulated because of hate speech and all these laws that are in place. But yeah, I think overall it has been very positive. Okay. Just speak up. Just use whatever space, utilize whatever platforms that you have, and just speak up. I think at some point, yes, it can be very disheartening, especially when you realize that not everyone agrees with you, but that's just how it works. And give yourself some grace. So if you want to be a leader, you cannot push yourself too far. You need to take, there are slow steps for you to be there. And make sure you listen to the people around you. The best leaders are the ones who listen, and when you speak up, you also know when to shut up. So yeah, that's the advice I would give to young leaders.